Welcome to your personalized deep dive.
Oh, this will be fun.
Today we're diving into the first quarter 2025 issue of McKinsey Quarterly.
Okay.
And, especially that section on leadership in this crazy world, right?
Well, it's a lot to cover, right? I mean,
It is. We've got interviews with like big shot CEOs and
right.
articles on, building teams,
The future of work.
future of work with AI, even
How to be a woman.
stuff about women in the workplace these days.
Yeah, yeah.
So our goal today is to
Give you some tools.
give you some real actionable
insight.
stuff you can actually use, whether you're running a team or
Trying to figure out your next.
figuring out your next career move.
Yeah, yeah.
Or just trying to even make sense of how business is changing.
It's changing fast. It is an interesting mix of information, for sure.
It is.
One thing that really jumped out at me was this focus on continuous learning and adapting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this issue is really pushing that leaders can't just coast. Like, what worked in the past isn't going to work now.
It's like we're all in this upgrade cycle.
Yeah.
Right? Not even just our phones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's this one article, warning, upgrade your personal operating system. And it really drives that point home. Uses this analogy of leaders needing to update their thinking and habits, just like they update software on their phone.
Right, right.
It's like we need to think about our personal operating systems.
Oh, okay.
Make sure they're ready to handle, the pace of change.
Okay, so continuous learning, adapting. Got it.
Yeah.
What's that actually look like in practice? Does it mean I got to be on like Coursera or something all the time?
I mean, it's more than just taking courses, right?
Okay.
It's about being curious and being willing to experiment and being open to new ways of doing things. It's also about having that self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
To identify where you need to grow.
Okay.
And then actively, seeking out those opportunities.
Right. Makes sense. You can't rest on your laurels, especially with technology moving so fast.
It's moving fast.
Which, speaking of,
Yeah.
Another theme that popped up was this
Vulnerability.
importance of vulnerability. Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels kind of counterintuitive. Shouldn't leaders be like strong and decisive all the time?
That's the old school view of leadership. What we're seeing now is that, vulnerability, when done right, can be incredibly powerful. There's an article, How Leaders Can Tap the Power of Vulnerability, and they make the case that admitting that you don't have all the answers can build trust with your team.
So it's not about pretending to be perfect.
No.
More about being real.
About being human, relatable.
Okay.
Think about it, right? Who would you rather work for?
Mm-hmm.
A robot who always seems to have it all figured out.
Right.
Or someone who's willing to admit that, they're still learning and growing.
I think we've all worked for that robot boss at some point.
Yeah.
Not inspiring.
No.
But so how do you balance vulnerability with, still maintaining authority and respect?
It's a fine line, for sure.
Yeah, right.
It's not about oversharing, right? Or
right.
Breaking down in tears every time something goes wrong.
Right.
It's about choosing the right moments to show your human side, to admit when you've made a mistake or ask for help when you need it.
So vulnerability is in. Got it.
It's in.
Now, this issue of McKinsey Quarterly also had a CEO's essential checklist.
Yeah.
Bunch of questions every CEO should supposedly be able to answer.
A lot of questions.
Did any of those stand out to you?
Yeah, this checklist, compiled by Carolyn Dewar, Kurt Strovink, Scott Keller, and Vikram Malhotra, is quite thought-provoking. One that I found particularly interesting was, what is your expanded definition of success for the company?
Oh, I like that one too.
Beyond just the financials.
Yeah, it's not just about making money, right?
Right.
There's got to be a bigger purpose. I remember they had some
great MasterCard.
Netflix.
MasterCard.
Yeah. They talked about MasterCard's War on Cash initiative. It wasn't just about making money from transactions, but about, fundamentally changing how the world pays for things.
Yeah, and Netflix, it wasn't just about being like the best DVD rental service. Remember those?
Right, yeah.
It was this global entertainment giant thing, which they've clearly achieved.
Global.
These examples really highlight the need for a bold vision that goes beyond just hitting those quarterly numbers.
Right.
It's about thinking big, Right, making a real impact.
Yeah, and pushing boundaries.
Pushing boundaries.
All right, bold vision check. What else was on that checklist that resonated with you?
Another good one was, what are the 2, 3 big moves you will make during your tenure to really differentiate your company from competitors?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I mean, that's crucial in today's, cutthroat business world.
So many distractions, so many opportunities.
It's easy to get pulled in a million different directions.
It is.
Successful leaders need to be able to, cut through the noise,
Right.
prioritize,
And
focus on those key initiatives that will really give them an edge.
Mm-hmm.
And they also need to think about how their organization is structured, right?
Right, which brings us
To achieve those goals.
how do you balance stability and agility in your organization's design to optimize execution?
Yeah.
It's that tension between having processes and structure,
Yeah.
but also being able to move quickly.
Well, the article had this interesting example from Google. They actually have sanctioned ways to break structures for speed.
Wait, so they're encouraging people to, like, bypass bureaucracy?
It's not about throwing out all the rules.
Right.
It's about recognizing that sometimes to get things done quickly, you need to be flexible.
Okay.
And they have processes in place to make sure things don't devolve into chaos.
Right.
But they also empower their teams to make decisions and move fast.
Interesting concept. It's like having guardrails, right?
Exactly.
But still allowing...
They call it stagility.
Oh, stagility.
Stability and agility. Like a bamboo tree, strong yet flexible enough to bend in the wind.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So we've got vision, big moves, and stagility.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else from that CEO checklist that stood out?
Well, one more that really resonated with me was, are the most value-creating roles in your organization filled with the right talent?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that highlights how crucial it is to have
Right people, right roles.
the right people in the right roles,
Right.
especially those roles that are really driving the company's success.
They used the example of Blackstone, the investment firm.
Yeah.
Focused on, like, the top 37 roles.
37 roles.
That drove, like, 80% of the company value.
Out of thousands. Isn't that fascinating?
It is fascinating.
Just 37 roles driving the majority of the value.
Yeah.
It really emphasizes the importance of strategic talent management.
Right.
It's not just about filling any open position. It's about identifying those key roles and making sure you've got
Rock stars.
absolute rock stars in those seats.
That's a great point. And once you got those rock stars, you got to make sure you keep them engaged and motivated about it, right?
You do.
That's where building strong teams comes in.
It does, and that's what we're going to dive into next.
Okay.
One of the articles in this issue really challenge some of the traditional thinking about what makes a team effective.
Ooh. I'm intrigued. Let's unpack that. All right, let's talk teams.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many myths out there about what makes a team, like, really effective.
Right.
Like, you just throw a bunch of A players together and magic happens, right?
You would think so, but one of the articles, Go Teams, when teams get healthier, the whole organization benefits.
Okay.
Really challenge that.
Okay.
It turns out team dynamics,
Okay.
way more important than just individual talent alone.
Right.
And they use this interesting analogy of the U.S. Olympic relay team.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
They were talking about how the U.S. team often struggled in the relay, even though, like, they had the fastest sprinters in the world.
Some of the fastest.
Right. But it was because they didn't practice.
As a unit.
Together.
Yeah.
As a unit.
You've got to have the teamwork.
It's a good reminder that teamwork is about more than just, like, individual brilliance.
Right.
It's about creating an environment where people can really collaborate effectively and play to each other's strengths and cover each other's weaknesses.
It's like a well-oiled machine, each part working in sync.
So how do you build that well-oiled machine? The article mentioned something about 4 core areas of team health.
Right. They talk about configuration, alignment, execution, and renewal.
Configuration, alignment, execution, and renewal.
Yeah. So configuration is about having clear roles and diverse perspectives within the team.
Okay.
Alignment is making sure everyone's on the same page,
Goals,
purpose.
Okay.
Execution is how well the team actually gets the work done.
Okay.
And renewal is about creating a sustainable work environment, making sure people feel supported and energized.
Right. It seems like psychological safety is a big part of that renewal piece.
Huge.
Right. If people don't feel safe to, like, speak up or take risks, you're not going to get the best out of it.
You're not going to get that innovation.
Right.
You got to create that no judgment zone
where
people can, feel comfortable sharing ideas, even if they're a little out there.
Right. It's like that Google X
moonshot thinking.
Moonshot thinking, yeah.
Yeah, encouraging people to think big, to fail fast, and to learn from those failures.
It makes me think, one thing I've always struggled with is, like, how do you know what kind of team you need?
Right.
Like, are there different types of teams?
I'm so glad you asked that.
Okay.
The article actually talks about that.
Okay.
They talk about 3 main team archetypes: cycling, relay, and rowing.
Cycling, relay, and rowing.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're in gym class or something.
Well, think about it this way, right?
Okay.
In cycling, team members take turns leading and supporting each other.
Okay.
It's highly collaborative, very interdependent.
All right.
In relay, each member has a specific sequential task,
Right.
passing the baton to the next person.
Right.
All about those smooth handoffs.
Got it.
And then in rowing, everyone is moving in sync,
Okay.
pulling together towards that common goal.
Yeah, I get it. So each type of team has different strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly.
Right. So you need to pick the right structure.
Right, depending on the task at hand.
Like picking the right tool for the job.
It is. It is.
Right.
Understanding which type of team you're on, can help you figure out which of those health drivers to prioritize.
Okay, so now I'm thinking about all the teams I'm on and like which bucket they fit in.
Right.
This is great. But let's talk about leading those teams, especially in times of change.
Yeah.
That whole Rolls-Royce transformation story.
Oh, that was a good one.
That was fascinating.
Yeah.
Reinventing Rolls-Royce, that article.
Yeah, great example of leadership in action.
Tufan Ercabilgets, the CEO.
Yeah, he took over at a rough time.
Yeah.
Declining profits, industry downturn.
Didn't sugarcoat it either,
He didn't.
He told employees they were standing on a burning platform.
Burning a platform.
Talk about a wake-up call.
It's time to jump.
But he didn't just focus on restructuring.
No.
He wanted a complete transformation.
He did.
He had this 4-pillar plan.
Yeah, building trust and aligning the workforce, right? Creating a granular strategy, building a performance culture.
Yeah.
And moving fast without breaking things.
Right. And he had this interesting approach to team building.
Yeah, instead of trust falls and kumbaya.
Right.
He brought up the tough topics. He did.
Yeah.
He believed that tackling those difficult issues directly would foster a stronger and more cohesive team.
It's like ripping off the Band-Aid.
It is.
Might sting at first.
But it's better in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He also instilled this new purpose statement, right?
He did, yeah.
For Rolls-Royce.
Something about powering, protecting, and connecting people everywhere.
Yeah, it's interesting how he put people at the center of it all.
He did, yeah.
It's about humanizing the company's mission.
Yeah.
And giving people a sense of purpose beyond like just the bottom line.
Right.
To support that purpose, he introduced 4 key behaviors.
Okay.
Put safety first, do the right thing, keep it simple, and make a difference.
Simple but effective.
Simple but effective.
Yeah.
So the Rolls-Royce story is inspiring.
It is.
But it's a huge company.
Right.
What about the rest of us?
Right.
How can we, how can we apply these leadership lessons
Right.
to our own work and careers?
Well, that's where the article "Developing a Resilient, Adaptable Workforce for an Uncertain Future" comes in.
Okay.
It argues that being able to, adapt and thrive in the face of disruption.
Yeah.
It's not just a nice to have.
Right.
It's essential.
It's essential. I feel like I'm constantly having to adapt these days.
Constantly.
Right. The world changes so fast, it's hard to keep up.
Well, and the authors point out that, change doesn't come naturally to most people. We tend to cling to the familiar, even when it's not serving us anymore.
The only constant is change.
That's right.
Right. But how do you actually embrace change?
Well, it starts with mindset.
Okay.
Leaders need to encourage a culture of continuous learning
Okay.
and provide support during those times of transition.
Right.
And they also need to be role models.
Okay.
Walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Be the change you want to see.
Right. Lead by example.
Lead by example, yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking of leading by example, let's talk about building a superpower.
Oh, that's a fun one.
That was a pretty intriguing article.
Yeah, building a superpower. What can we learn from the Magnificent Seven?
Okay.
It's all about how companies need to develop a distinctive capability, that sets them apart as superpower.
Something that makes them stand out from the crowd.
Exactly.
Right, like a unique skill or an advantage.
Exactly, like Amazon's customer obsession.
Okay.
Right, that's become their defining trait,
Yeah.
a big part of their success.
Right.
Or ASML, the Dutch semiconductor company. They've built their superpower on technological innovation.
So it's about figuring out like what your company does better than anyone else.
Yeah.
And then focusing on that.
That's the idea.
Right.
And the article introduces this framework
Okay.
called the vector approach.
Okay, vector. I remember that.
Yeah.
It sounds a little technical, though.
It does. So let me break it down.
Okay.
So you've got vision,
Okay.
employees,
Okay.
culture, technology, organizational structure, and routines.
So vector.
Yeah. So vision is about having that clear long-term goal, right? That guides all your efforts.
Right. And employees are, of course, crucial, right?
Absolutely.
Having the right people.
Right. People in the right roles.
The right roles, yeah.
Culture is about creating an environment
Yeah.
that supports and nurtures that superpower.
And technology's a big one these days.
Big one.
Right. It's about using technology strategically to enhance that superpower, not just because it's shiny and new.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah, don't chase the shiny object.
Right.
Think about how it's actually going to help you achieve that.
Yeah, yeah.
Then you have organizational structure,
Mm-hmm.
Designing your company in a way
Yeah.
that maximizes the impact of the superpower.
Okay.
And finally, routines.
Okay.
Making sure that the superpower is actually embedded in those day-to-day operations, through
Yeah.
those consistent practices and processes.
So it's a holistic approach.
It is.
Right. All these elements working together
Working together.
to create that unique advantage.
Exactly. It's about creating a competitive edge that's hard to copy,
Right.
that's going to drive long-term success.
This is all great stuff, but let's be honest.
Yeah.
A lot of leadership roles, especially at the top, are still held by men.
That's true.
What about women in the workplace? Did the issue touch on that at all?
They did Women in the Workplace 2024.
Okay.
And it paints a bit of a sobering picture.
Okay.
While women have made progress,
Yeah.
there are still significant barriers.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to that first step up to management,
Yeah.
what they call the broken rung.
The broken rung.
Yeah,
What
so
does that mean?
it refers to the fact that for every 100 men
Okay.
promoted to manager,
Yep.
only 87 women are promoted.
Oh, wow.
So it creates this bottleneck
Oh.
in the leadership pipeline.
So even though more women are entering the workforce,
Yeah.
they're not moving up at the same rate.
No.
That's a problem.
It is a problem.
Yeah.
And the article highlights a few things that companies really need to focus on, like
Okay.
debiasing hiring and promotion processes,
Right.
fostering allyship,
Okay.
and empowering managers to create truly inclusive teams.
So it's not just about getting more women in the door.
It's not enough.
Right. It's making sure they have equal opportunities to advance once they're there.
Create a level playing field.
Yeah. Yeah.
The article also suggests some more, nuanced approaches, like
Okay.
offering greater flexibility for caregivers
Right.
and providing leadership training that's tailored to the specific challenges women face.
Makes sense. A one-size-fits-all approach isn't going to cut it.
It's not.
Yeah. But on a more positive note,
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear, what were those CEO interviews like?
Oh, yeah.
They had some real heavy hitters
They do.
in this issue.
Yeah. James Gorman, Ken Frazier, Steven Schwartzman.
Yeah. What were their biggest takeaways? I mean, those CEO interviews were just fascinating.
Yeah, really interesting perspectives.
Each leader had their own, unique style,
Yeah.
but they all seemed to share
Some common threads.
a few common traits, right?
Vision, resilience.
Like vision, resilience.
And that deep understanding of how to build and motivate teams.
That was a big one, right?
Yeah. What struck me was how they all emphasized the importance of having that clear strategy,
Mhm.
but also the ability to adapt when things inevitably go off course.
Right, right.
Like, take James Gorman of Mark & Stanley.
Okay.
He navigated the firm through the 2008 financial crisis.
Oh, right.
And really steered them toward a more stable business model.
Yeah, he talked about needing ballast to weather future storms,
Right.
which he found in wealth and asset management.
Exactly. A strategic shift away from those more volatile institutional businesses.
So he recognized that, relying solely on investment banking and trading
Yeah, it made them vulnerable.
made them vulnerable.
He needed to diversify.
Yeah.
And wealth management offered that stability.
It's a great example of how, a crisis can be an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
To rethink your strategy and emerge stronger.
Absolutely.
What about Ken Frazier?
Yeah, former CEO of Merck.
Yeah, he seemed like a very different kind of leader.
He was. Frazier was all about values-based leadership.
Right.
Deeply committed to Merck's core purpose. Medicine is for the people, not for the profits.
Right, right.
Guided his decision-making through pricing controversies, product recalls, even a major cyber attack.
He did not shy away from tough situations.
He didn't.
I remember they talked about how Merck had run these tabletop exercises
Right.
to prepare for, different crisis scenarios.
To be ready.
Yeah, it helped them be more resilient when the NotPetya cyber attack hit.
Like that old saying, chance favors the prepared mind.
Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, so by thinking through those potential challenges in advance,
Yeah,
they were able to respond more effectively when the real crisis hit.
preparation is key, for sure.
It is.
Now let's talk about Steven Schwartzman. the co-founder of Blackstone.
Ah, yes.
Known for his bold moves and his ability to spot opportunities where others see risk.
He's a master of systematic analysis,
Yeah.
not afraid to make big bets, but always does his homework, make sure those fundamentals are sound.
Right.
He shared a story about investing in real estate during the recession of the early 1990s.
Oh, wow.
He saw value where others saw fear.
Yeah.
And he ended up generating a 64% compound rate of return.
Incredible.
Incredible.
It's a great example of how, understanding market dynamics and being able to see the bigger picture can pay off big time.
Yeah, and he stressed the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people.
Oh, for sure. He said capital wasn't the limiting factor in his business.
Right.
It was talent and management focus.
It's the people.
It really mattered.
Yeah, it reminds us that even in industries where money seems to be everything,
Right.
it's ultimately the people and the execution.
The execution, yeah.
That makes the difference.
Okay, so we've heard from these iconic CEOs, but...
yeah, let's bring it back to our listeners.
Let's bring it back to our listeners, yeah.
We've talked about leadership, adaptability, superpowers.
Right.
What are some concrete things people can do to be more effective in their own careers, no matter what stage they're at?
That's the question, right?
Well, I think, one key takeaway is to be proactive.
Right.
About your own development, right? Don't wait for opportunities to just fall in your lap.
Right.
Go out and seek them out.
Yeah.
Invest in building your skills. Find mentors who can guide you.
It's about taking ownership of your career path.
It is.
Right.
Don't just let things happen to you. Make things happen.
Make things happen. I like that.
And don't be afraid to embrace challenges, as we've seen from those CEO stories,
Right.
Adversity can be a crucible for growth.
It's like that Nietzsche quote, that which does not kill us makes us stronger.
There you go.
But I think it's also important to be strategic about those challenges, too.
Oh, of course.
Right? Not all challenges are created equal.
You want to pick the ones that are going to stretch you and help you grow,
Right.
but not completely overwhelm you.
Right, right. Speaking of growth,
Yeah.
the article, What Will It Take to Build the Workforce of the Future?
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
Had some interesting ideas about how to foster skill development.
Right, not just for individuals, but for organizations.
Exactly.
The author argued that it's not just about teaching technical skills, it's about creating that culture of learning, right?
Right.
Providing opportunities for people to challenge themselves and grow.
He talked about this skill code.
Yes.
Which he said was made up of these 3 key elements.
Okay.
Challenge, complexity, and connection.
I like it.
Yeah, so challenge is about having opportunities to, push yourself beyond your comfort zone, right?
Right, get uncomfortable.
Complexity is about working on problems that require,
creative thinking.
Creative thinking.
Problem solving.
Yeah, and connection is about having access to, mentors, peers, and networks.
Your network is your net worth.
Yeah, that can support your learning, right?
Yeah.
So it's about creating an environment where learning is ongoing.
Yeah, not just a one-time thing.
Not just like a classroom or a one-off training.
Right, got to keep learning.
Exactly. And one of the most important things leaders can do is model this behavior themselves.
Be a lifelong learner.
Right, be curious.
Yeah.
And be willing to, share your own knowledge and experiences with others.
Pay it forward.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
People are more likely to embrace learning
if
they see their leaders doing it too.
Right. Actions speak louder than words.
And don't forget the power of vulnerability.
Oh, it's so important.
We talked about this earlier.
You did.
But it's worth repeating, right?
It is.
Leaders who are willing to admit they don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
Create a more, open...
Creates that psychological safety.
And collaborative environment, right?
Yeah.
Where people feel safe to learn and grow.
Exactly.
So it's about creating a culture where it's okay to make mistakes, too.
As long as you learn from them.
As long as you learn from them.
That's right. Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
okay,
any final thoughts for our listeners?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway here is that leadership, it's not a destination.
Mm-hmm.
It's a journey.
It's a journey.
It's about continuous learning, adaptation, and growth.
Right.
It's about being clear about your values, your purpose, and being courageous enough to lead with both your head and your heart.
It's about building strong teams, embracing change.
Absolutely.
And creating a more human-centered workplace.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And it's about remembering that we're all in this together, right?
Right.
We need to support each other, learn from each other, and work together to create a better future for everyone.
I love that. That's a great note to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of leadership.
It's a pleasure.
We hope you've gleaned some valuable insights.
Yeah. Hope you got some good takeaway.
And are inspired to continue on your own leadership journey.
Your own journey.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing.
Keep growing.
And keep leading.